officially recording episode 253 with Captain William Hawk. I should have asked you how to pronounce your last name. Albracht?
Albracht.
Okay, got it. Albracht. Captain William Hawk Albracht, author of Abandoned in Hell, Escape from Vietnam's Firebase Kate, which, as an Audible connoisseur, if I may be so bold, it'll be in the description. It'll be sticky in the top comment. As an audiobook connoisseur, I would like to think of myself as one now. 9 hours, completely doable. And maybe this shouldn't be the right word to describe it, but pretty funny. I mean, it's perhaps the most inappropriate way to describe it because it's a very serious topic, but I'll get to that later. Pretty funny. You had me laughing at sometimes. I was like, I'm not.
And there's some gallows humor in there for sure.
Yeah, there is. But before I start running my stupid mouth and making a fool of myself, which I've done for 252 straight episodes, so I don't know why I thought this one would be any different. How about you introduce yourself, sir?
Bill Albracht. There you go.
There you go. Recipient of 3 silver stars, and obviously, as I said, author of Abandoned in Hell. So, can you give just a very, very brief outline for everyone listening, just about your book, what happened, just so they know what we're diving into?
Sure. I joined the Army when I was 18 years old, and 1,000 years ago in 1966, went to All Catholic High School here in the area I live in, Rock Island, Illinois, home of the Blues Brothers. And probably the most substantial thing that I did in high school was play varsity football. Didn't study, just wanted to get out. And when you graduate in this area, the agricultural manufacturing was huge. John Deere, International Harvester, Farmall were all huge at that time. And that is pretty much where everybody went to. Or college, of course. And I didn't want either one of those. Certainly couldn't get a college. So myself and my best buddy, Joe Murphy, we went down to the Army recruiter in Rock Island. And, of course, we graduated from high school, like C averages. And he says, what can I help you boys? What do you got in mind? Now, Vietnam is just really starting to take off.
Yeah.
And the draft is big. And we said, we want airborne infantry and go to Vietnam. And he looked at us like we had 2 heads. And he questioned us and to make sure that we weren't, he was being set up.
Yeah.
And once he realized he goes, well, this is your lucky day. I just happen to have 2 slots here. And he does them all. And he goes, hey, there they are, airborne infantry. And I'm sure you'll go right to Vietnam. And he said, but I only got 2. They're going to be gone later on today.
You got to take them.
We got to sign up.
Oh, shit.
We go. And we go. And we ended up in Chicago. And we went processed through in October 66. And literally, but unless you're older, you won't understand the meaning of this. We left Chicago at like 11:45, 10 to midnight, and we're heading down to Clarksville, Tennessee to Fort Campbell for basic. So we literally took the last train to Clarksville. Big monkey song. Anyway, so we get down there, and as soon as you got there, test upon test, like a couple days. And they pulled myself and Joe out, and they said, you gentlemen have scored high enough to take the OCT.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what's that? They said, well, if you pass the OCT, you can go to OCS. And I don't know what this is. And OCS could have meant Oklahoma Cook School.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
OCS.
And then he said, no, it means Officer Kennedy. You can become an officer in the United States Army. I thought all the officers in the Army came from West Point. I had no idea. I had never heard ROTC or anything. Yeah. Took it, passed it. The minimum score to pass it. And I didn't want to take it, but, the drill sergeant just take the test. Okay. Yeah. The minimum score to pass it, I'll never forget, it was 115. I scored 115.
Hey, that's just being on time and doing what you need to do.
Joe, who was more interested than I was, scored 114. So Then they call, there was like 220 of us in the basic training company, and they called us 22 guys in that passed. And this big captain, and my God, an officer, oh Lord, he had been to Vietnam, he'd come back. He's in there, says, gentlemen, he says, you're all going to go to OCS. He says, we'll get you with class dates and da-da-da. Pick a branch. Don't get exotic. Keep it basic. So any questions? And I'm in the back. I said, sir, and he goes, yes, private. What if you don't want to go to OCS? He goes, I have a levy. I have a quota. I have to come up with 22 bodies. I have 22 here. You are going to OCS. Any other questions? No, sir. Thank you very much. Off I go. So I ended up down at betting school for boys in 1967, still 18 years old, just 18. I mean, not just, but 18. And I went through 6 months of hell with Officer Candidate School, infantry, board betting. Turned 19 mid-August of 1967, graduated August 31st, 1967 as a brand new, newly minted second lieutenant at just 19 years old. Now, luckily, I was a kid in high school, I had to buy the beer. I've always looked older, so nobody really knew how old I was, and I certainly wasn't telling them. Well, then I had my older brother, Bob, my hero, my role model. He was in Special Forces, Green Berets, right? He was in there, and I put in for it, and by God, I got it. So off I go to Fort Bragg, hooked up with my brother. He was getting ready to go to Vietnam, and I went through the Special Forces Officers course, which was tough.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, physically, I mean, I'm 19 years old. I just came out of almost a year of continual trainings. Officer Candidate School was really physical. Parachute school, jump school, airborne, betting. That's nothing but physical.
Yeah.
And so physically, I was ready to go. But mentally, the Special Forces the scholastics involved is unbelievable. I mean, it rivals college and then going for your master's. I mean, you have got to learn so many things, like you're parachuted into behind the enemy lines and you have to get resupply. And this would be one of your problems. Okay, it's a night and the wind is at so many knots and the plane is flying into it and it is going so many knots. There's 16 door bundles, they each weigh this much. How big, calculated, how big does your drop zone need? And so on like this. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But they taught it to you.
Yeah.
They taught it to you, and you applied it. And I graduated from Special Forces course. And my first tour of assignment was Thailand, training the Royal Thai Army. Now, I firmly believe that was because my brother Bob was in Vietnam, and there would have been a chance that I would have been. I could have, been in the same exact unit he was. Could have been a chance, and me, an officer, and his enlisted, that wouldn't have gone. So he was a sergeant. I did my time. I was supposed to get out now because I'd done 2 years commission, but I volunteered for one more year because here I had been trained to go to Vietnam to serve my country. And I had yet to do that.
Yeah.
So I felt obligated that I needed to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe take somebody's place that wasn't as well trained as I was and go to Vietnam. And there was of course, there was a sense of adventure. There was the ultimate adventure awaited me too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I am a very patriotic individual, and I went ahead and went in to our personnel guy, and I said, I want to extend for one more year, which you could do back then as an officer. You could do 1 year and then think about going indefinite. I said, I want to go one more year, but only if I can go to Vietnam with Special Forces. And he looked at me like I had two heads and said, this is your lucky day. Because I have to have one more slide. I said, save it. I've heard it before. Just give it to me.
Give me the damn paper.
And August of 1969, I arrived in Vietnam. A couple weeks later, I turned 21. So now I was a captain. I made captain. I turned 21. A couple weeks later, I made captain. And I went to in for my interview. Where do you want to go, son? And I said, I want to go to the Mike Force. Now, this is important. The Mike Force, the Mobile Strike Force in 2 Corps. I Corps, 2 Corps, 3 Corps, 4 Corps. I Corps was mountains and butted right up against North Vietnam.
Yeah.
And it was dead in Indian country. I mean, there was just tough to keep the Special Forces base up there. They were continually being overrun, but they had a footprint. 2 Corps was the Central Highlands, the mountains. Beautiful, mountainous, great climate, and they were really, really engaging the enemy a lot there. And then 3 Corps, 4 Corps, as you went down to the Delta. I said, my brother Bob had been in 2 Corps. He was home now. I wanted to go to the mountains. It's not a problem. And I want to go to the Mobile Strike Force, the Mike Force. They said, oh, yeah, something else, please. The Mike Force is for combat veterans, for guys on their 2nd tour, 3rd tour, professionals. These guys have been to the altar,
yeah,
and they have had their baptism of fire.
Yeah.
They've all proven themselves. We admire that you want to go there, but you don't have the experience, and so therefore that's a hard no.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, where? And anyway, they sent me to Southern 2 Corps in the Central Highlands to this camp of Bu Prang. Bu Prang was down in Southern 2 Corps near the camp, very near the Cambodian border. And I got there in about September, and the monsoons had been in and out, and a lot of repairs need to be doing. Sandbags need to be filled, bunkers need to be dug deeper, overhead covers, so on and so on. There was about 400 strikers, mountain yards. Mountain yards are would be the equivalent to the American Indian here. They are native to Vietnam. 1,000 years ago, they were on the coast. They got pushed back in when the Chinese came down and took over the best part of Vietnam, the lower lands. And they were more Iron Age. They were loincloths, crossbows. They had villages and different tribes, and they lived in stilt homes, and they would burn and slash. They'd grow crops and have livestock, and then when the land, they'd move several miles away and burn what was there and start all over again. And the Vietnamese called them savages. They thought they were less than dirt.
Yeah.
And they hated them, and the mountain yards returned that favor. The North Vietnamese would come down on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, go into their villages and steal anything they could get their hands on, their livestock, and they would conscript their sons to use them as bearers up and down the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So there's no love laws between the mountain yards and the North Vietnamese and the South Vietnamese, but especially the North Vietnamese. The French went in there, and that's how they got their name, mountain yards, which means mountain people in French, and used them. We went in there after the French left and used them even more. We made them into a fighting army. Not that the French didn't. And by the way, if you thought the French didn't fight hard in Vietnam, read the book A Street Without Joy, Bernard Fall.
Okay.
And you see they fought hard.
Yeah.
Different kind of war. So we got them, recruited them, and they were at Bu Prang, 400 plus strikers. We call them strikers, plus their families. So this was a really good sized Special Forces camp. They had living fighting bunkers where they would actually, this would be their position under attack, and their families are behind them bunkered up. So how hard are they fighting, right?
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful people. I can't say enough about them. Matter of fact, the book that Marvin Wolf, my co-author, phenomenal individual, tremendous writer, made me look good. We dedicated the book to the mountaineers.
Yeah.
Well, because of the size of this camp, it was in the way of Bam Me Tuot. And Bam Me Tuot was a district headquarters of South Vietnam, a part of it. And after that, it would be Saigon. I mean, it was a major metropolitan area, and the district chiefs and everything would be there, the district representatives. Well, what they intended to do is come down the Ho Chi Minh Trail with enough force to come through, hit Boot Prang, take Bambi to it, march to the sea, cut Vietnam in half. And in 75, they did that. They came from the north, they came from the west, and marched east. Well, Boot Prang was getting ready, and all the intelligence said, they're going to hit Boot Prang. They're going to hit, they're coming in. So they put out 3 fire bases, Annie, Kate, and Susan, in kind of a triangular around the camp of Boot Prang in the Central Highlands, southern Central Highlands. On those camps were 3 artillery pieces, 2 155 howitzer, 1 105 howitzer. And of course, you put those there, you need the artillerymen. So you had about 27 artillery to man the guns, to do the fire directional control, and so on. Well, they're not going to just sit out there by themselves. So they put about 130 mountain yards, a perimeter around them to save, because you can't shoot guns and defend yourself at the same time. So the Kate, which is what I'm obviously most familiar with, they had about 130 mountain yards dug in around them to provide security. I know this. I don't really pay much attention to it because I am the executive officer to Nick Palmer. Nick Palmer was the commanding officer. Heck of a guy. I mean, he exuded command, the commander.
Yeah.
I made light of it in the book. I said, was on Mount Olympus. But I mean, he looked like every Special Forces commander should look.
G.I. Joe.
I was executive officer. And we had a captain on every fire base and a Special Forces NCO, plus the mountain yards, every one of them, because the captain was in charge of all the security there. So it was October, late October. The colonel from the Bambi-Tuit, our colonel, Special Forces, flew out for an intelligence briefing. Now, this is back in the days. I mean, they didn't have satellites, GPS and all that. That obviously didn't have that. So we were getting raw intelligence from different areas. Everything pointed to it. And I was in charge of giving the briefing, and I got the briefing, and after it was over, Colonel Simmons came to me and he goes, "Great job, good briefing. By the way, pack your stuff. You're heading to Firebase Cape. You're going to go out there for a month and provide security, because Captain Barnum's he's coming up. His rotation's up." I said, "But sir, they need me here. I'm getting this ready. I'm doing all this in preparation for our big attack that's coming." Good point. Get on the next helicopter, head out to fire. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, right. Thank you for your input. Thank you for your input.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So after the morning, pack my stuff.
Noted.
We'll file that. Okay?
Yeah, I'll file that on this piece of toilet paper. Get on the helicopter.
And we'll use that toilet paper later.
Yeah.
Then I got my rucksack, got what I needed, and got a resupply helicopter out to Kate. I got there about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and Kate was like somebody came with a bulldozer and scraped off the top of a jungle hill.
Sure.
It was about 80 to 100 yards long, like about a football field, and about 50, 60 yards wide, kind of in the shape kind of a football.
What a beautiful analogy of an American football field with a bunch of white boys on top of a hill in Vietnam. What a beautiful analogy.
Yeah, you get the picture.
Yeah.
3 sides of it was very steep.
Yeah.
One side, the north side, was not. The north side was a gentle slope. We flew in the resupply, and I jumped off with my gear, and Captain Barnum jumped on him. "Hey, how you doing? See you later." And he took off. And Danny Pirelli was there. Danny Pirelli was my sergeant, my Special Forces sergeant. Consummate Special Forces non-commissioned officer. He was just, I can't really say enough about Danny Pirelli. And I said, "Hey, how you doing? What's going on?" And he goes, "Welcome to Firebase Kate, sir." He said, "I got here yesterday." I said, "Well, looking around here, I got guys playing volleyball.
Yeah.
The Americans and the mountain yards, they're playing cards everywhere you look. People were sleeping. there just didn't be any sense that we were actually in a combat zone. I didn't say anything. I said, let's do a walkabout, Danny. He's roger that. So we walked the perimeter. It was horrible. The fighting positions weren't deep enough. There was little to no overhead cover. The sandbags were deteriorating. The fields of fire had been overgrown. There wasn't enough concertina, and certainly concertina barbed wire, that circular barbed wire, and certainly not enough claymores. I was not happy. And I looked at him and he goes, I didn't want to do anything until you got here. I knew you were coming out. I said, and rightly so. So we had a meeting. I had a meeting with all the leadership of the Americans. And I told them, from this moment forward, there will be no more volleyball. There'll be no more card playing. There'll be no more nothing until we get this place combat ready. And then right away, do you know something we don't know? I said, no, I don't, but I want to be ready in case something does. Oh, and as some of the guys told me later, we go, oh, we got this hard ass Green Beret captain in here now. And I said, well, that's that.
Yeah.
And then I had a meeting with the Mountaineer leadership because they have their own leadership. Yes, I'm in charge of them, but they all come from village and tribes and they have their own leadership internally.
Yeah.
And I met with them and I gave them the same ultimatum. Okay. Now the sun, and it gets dark early there, and when it gets dark, it gets dark. There's no ambient lighting whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it starts getting darker, the sun's getting low in the sky, and I felt pretty good. So I think we've done all we can. So we went to our little bunker that we had, that we shared, he and I, to sleep in. And I took my boots off. Now, anytime you're in the field, in the jungle, in a combat area, and you can actually take your boots off, that's a good night.
Yeah.
I took my boots off. And it had to be about 11:30 at night. All of a sudden, all hell broke loose. Firearms, back and forth. I'm up, put my boots on, didn't take them off again for 6 days. And out into our northern area where the gentle slope was, it went through as a saddle, came up. On the other side was another hill, not as big as Kate, about half the size, but there was foliation at the top. And we had put a listening post out there because it's the most likely avenue of approach. And they had made contact. It sure sounded like it. So I'm up at the perimeter, Cape, north side, which was a gentle slope down. Jungle came in to separate the two hills, but there was a natural gap right between where the jungle we would think it would meet. You could have probably driven a big truck through there. It was that wide.
Okay.
And then the jungle went out again, and you had, we called it Ambush Hill at the top. And around Ambush Hill and around Cape was about thigh-high grass. And it was just kind of flowing, and then the vegetation was at top of Ambush Hill. About a half a dozen yards come charging down the south side of Ambush Hill, through the gap, up, and we had enough moonlight, we could see them coming, up to Kate and come to the designated area that we would use to go in and out of. And they came in. And I said, what do you got? What do you got? And they said, Buku VC. Now, first of all, French, Buku a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of French influence. VC. Anybody that was shooting at them was VC, Viet Cong. Didn't matter if they were hardcore NVA from the north. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
VC, bad guys. Okay.
Yeah.
So what do I have? I don't know. Let's call it spooky. Spooky gunships. I have to stop and tell you what these are and explain them because I'm going to refer to them later.
Yes.
Spooky gunships was a C-47 cargo aircraft propeller from World War II. It had 3 miniguns out the side, and each one shot a 7.62, which is a pretty nice little round, bigger than the 16.
Yeah.
And they can put one every square foot with these miniguns, with these Gatling guns type thing. And they are unbelievable. They're painted very dark and black on the bottom of it. At night, they're slow and they're lumbering, but you can't really see much of them to shoot them down.
Yeah.
Called up Spooky. Spooky came on station. They said, what do you got, Hawk? Now, my call sign wasn't quite Hawk yet. became Hawk later. What do you got, Hawk? I said, well, I don't know. I've got this, boom, boom. So I started vectoring them around Firebase Kate and Ambush Hill, shooting where I thought, well, they made contact here, so we know there's some there.
Yeah.
But let's check all these other different routes that somebody would use. So when Spooky shoots, there's the first thing you see is this red, because American traces are red. You see this red come down to the ground. Bunches of them, looks like a solid string.
Yeah.
And that's every fifth round.
Yeah.
And then you hear the roar of the gun. So it's, you see it come down like fire, and then you hear roar. Well, when they first were deployed in the war, the North Vietnamese thought it was, it's a dragon.
I was about to say that's got to sound like a dragon. They're in the jungles, and all of a sudden they can't see it. There's a lumbering, and then they just breathes fire. The ground explodes, and then they hear right. It's just like that's a dragon. Sorry for interrupting you. I get really excited about gunships.
No, that's quite right. And they initially called them Puff the Magic Bag.
Yep.
Then they did a few things, and they went to Spooky, and then later Shadow and Stinger and so on.
Yeah.
The different iterations. Okay, felt pretty good. So that's about 2:30 in the morning. Went back to bed in our hooch. Very well. Danny, I said tomorrow morning before let's get our squad. That's prior. I'm sorry, going back a step. After we did the walkabout, I said, "What do we have going on around us? What kind of patrols have been running?" He goes, "Sir," he says, "I don't think they have." He says they've gone out hunting, but they haven't run any patrols to see what we have here. I said, "Well, tomorrow morning, let's take out a couple dozen guys, reinforce a squad or two, and let's do some cloverleaf patrolling around our base area and see what we got going here." He said, "Roger that." Well, that night everything transpired. Well, that morning, just at dawn, incoming mortars, B-40 rockets types, RPGs, if you will, and a recoilless rifle, direct fire, 90 millimeter or whatever the NVA had, 87s, and they lit us up. And remember I told you the bunkers weren't very good in the fighting positions. We took a lot of casualties. I'm up and I'm calling in medevacs, and I'm trying to get some more people on station here because we have no idea what we got. So we're getting the medevacs in, and the firing stopped. And I said, "Danny, let's go see what's out there."
Yeah.
So Danny and I took a couple dozen guys, and I said, "We're going light." I said, "Ammo, water, that's about it. Ammo, water." And we headed out. We went down the northern slope, through that gap, up towards Ambush Hill where they had made contact, through the thigh-high grass up into the foliation in Ambush Hill. And sure enough, there was a shot up pith helmet, NVA, North Vietnamese Army pith helmet. I think a broken AK-47. There were blood trails. So we had done some damage.
Yeah.
It was spooky. Okay. It appeared that whatever it was had come from below Ambush Hill. Now, so we went up the south. We're on top. Now we head down the north side slope of Ambush Hill. So we were spread out. We had our point, we had our rear guard, and we had our flank and our main body, and we're heading down the hill. Boom, we walked right into them. They were set up in the wood line. There was no way we could have seen them. We walked right into them, and they opened up with us. We were down. We had cover. Well, we had concealment. We did not have cover. We had concealment, and I called to maneuver back to this berm, which we did. So berm on the side, which would be the right side of Ambush Hill, and we engaged the enemy. I said, "Okay, we know where they are. Let's slide off to the right here, slide down into the jungle." We did. Got online, and now we're going to come around like a gate.
Yeah.
We're going to come online and flank them.
Yeah.
Hit them on the side, roll them up. Infantry 101.
Yeah, yeah.
Hit them on the side, roll them up, flank. And as I'm doing that, forward air controller comes on. Forward air controller. And he's talking to me. He says, Hawk, he says, I see what you're doing. Now, there were some other things that happened in between that, but it's in the book. And I said, yeah. He says, I see what you're doing there. And he says, man, he says, there are a lot more of you than there are, and you got to get out of there.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to flank them, they're flanking you.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch more. So he doesn't tell me twice. So I withdrew back to that berm, and now we're trying to call in some air support.
Yeah.
In the meantime, one of the mountain guards said, we're down a man. We lost a man. So I had the forward air controller fly over where we had engaged the enemy the first time on the northern slope of Ambush Hill. He said, sure enough, you got a man down in the tall grass. Okay. Says, Danny, we had a machine gun and grenade launchers. I said, bring him up. I said, I'm going to go get that guy. So myself and 2 yards, we dropped all our stuff except for our weapons, slung mine, and we took off running like a bat out of hell. Yeah. Danny opened up, and they opened up with everything we had at where we took fire from before, and they didn't shoot back right away. And we got, myself and the 2 yards, we got to him, and sure enough, there was a yard right there laying, and he had a serious head wound. Got him, put him in a fireman's carry, and ran back. And once we started running back, the wood line opened up. And then they were like, oh, okay. And we got back to unscathed. Myself nor the other 2 yards actually was hit. Now, people would say, why did you do that? You're the commander. You're the individual that's calling the radio and everything. It's kind of a risky thing for you to do. Well, yeah, it is, of course, but a couple things. I've never, ever asked anybody to do anything I wouldn't do or had done.
Yeah.
And these mountain yards that I'm in command of now, I just got there the day before. I hadn't even been there 24 hours. They don't know anything about me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have them carry out orders.
Yeah. You got to get their respect.
I do. I need to get their respect.
Street cred.
And this did it. Yeah, street cred, if you will.
You got your Vietnam.
They understood now that I valued my life on the same par as theirs.
Yeah.
They respected that.
You just got into their gang initiation, right? Yeah. You just got the brand on the side, and they're like, all right. I got to run to the restroom really quick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll have a drink of water.
Yeah, all right, yeah. Well, you can monologue for 30 seconds. Tell them where to buy your book. I'll be right back.
It's a pretty good book. I get on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. And a little bit more about my co-author, Marvin Wolf. He was a captain of Vietnam also, a super guy, and he is a prolific writer. I mean, he writes some tremendous mystery type books too. But if you look up Marvin Wolf, WLF, on or Google him or anything, obviously this book will come up. This one right here, just happen to have it. And talk about Marvin. Again, there's a guy I can't say enough about. He was he really brought so much to the writing and the standard of how we did it. If you liked We Were Soldiers Once and Young, you'll enjoy this too, because it's sort of the same. I don't want to say venue, but sort of the same, couched the same way.
Thank you for your patience.
We talked to so many people in the book that we went into. I was just telling them about Marvin and they come to writing. Yeah. And I want to address here later, write this down, how the book came to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a notebook of whenever I have thoughts popping up, I just write down random notes to jot down. It was like random ones of, not to get off top, but yeah. I drew the analogy in my mind of when you first showed up to Firebase, Kate. If you ever read any history about Curtis LeMay, sounds very similar to if you ever go back and look at the histories of him taking control of Strategic Air Command. He went out to Moffett Air Force Base, and then he went from Air Force Base to Air Force Base. It sounds very. He gets there and he's basically like, "What the hell is this?" He's like, "What is this?" He's like, "You guys are all smiling and having fun. That means we're not doing it right." And but he just went out and they're kind of the same thing. They're like, "Well, what do you mean? We're at, World War II's over. We're at peace." And he was like, he remembers from World War II, he was like, "We will never be caught off guard again. Like, we will be ready to go within like 60 seconds at all times." But that's kind of the imagery I was getting was you show up and it's like, what are we doing? Why are we playing? This isn't a summer. Like, if we're going to go relax, let's go to the city and get drunk and relax. If we're going to fight, let's fight. Let's not do the middle ground, right? But, yeah.
By the way, these guys, the Yards, I mean, hand in glove, they responded right away. And the Americans, too. Well, now we're back to Berlin. We've got our wounded, and the forward air controller, the FAC, comes and says, "Hey," he says, "there's a lot of them down there."
Yeah.
And they're trying to cut you off and keep you from getting back to Kate. That's it. Let's go, boys. And we started maneuvering ourselves down and Bushell through the gap and up to Kate. We got up to Kate, buttoned up, let the games begin. And it did. And they started hammering us almost, not all the hours that the sun was out. At night when Spooky got on there, they kept a much lower profile.
Can you speak on buttoning up for a second? Sorry to interrupt. It's because I know, again, back to LeMay, I know like buttoning up for like those nuclear bunkers was quite literally close the door, start recycling the air, like we are buttoned up. But obviously Firebase Kate wasn't NORAD. As someone that just has no experience in service or combat whatsoever, what exactly is buttoning up? Is it getting behind fortifications? Is it, are you pulling something? Are you like literally closing things? What is buttoning up? Sorry, that's something I thought about.
Remember those positions I told you weren't deep enough?
Yes.
Well, they were now.
Okay.
They were shoveling and they were getting them deeper.
Okay.
When I say button up, I mean take your defensive positions, improve your defensive positions of what you could. They could no longer get out there and improve the fields of fire because they were getting shot at.
Okay.
But when I say button up, you're getting in your fighting position and getting ready instead of walking around and hey, what's going on over here? That was over.
Okay.
That part was over.
Okay.
Now we were in our fighting positions.
Okay. All right. So, back to it. So you're taking on fire. You just buttoned everything up.
We're buttoning up, and the artillery guys sprung into action. They are starting to fire, but an incoming barrage we got first thing in the morning took out 2 of our guns. They had us pinpointed. This was, if you're familiar with Dien Bien Phu, how it was the valley, and the Viet Minh brought the artillery pieces, dug caves and put them back here, brought them out, shot them. We were in a bowl of sorts. There was hilltops all around us, and they were firing at us and sometimes down at us. God knows why they put that fire base there.
Yeah, what the hell?
It was horrible. But they did.
Yeah.
They did, and the direct fire knocked out a couple of our tubes. As a matter of fact, they did replace one. We were able to replace one with a big Chinook heavy lift, but that was knocked out too. And the 105 couldn't be raised and elevated anymore. All it could do, you could traverse back and forth, and it was kind of on a line of sight. And so we could shoot straight into the hills. Wasn't real effective unless we were massive ground attack and using flechette round. So in effect, they had knocked out all of our artillery.
Yeah.
However, Susan and Annie could fire and support, but you never fire artillery when you have air support. Now, it turns out there wasn't much of anything going on in Vietnam at that time. So we got good assets and resources.
Yeah.
The first things came was helicopters.
Yeah.
My God, I don't know how they carry their balls around. I swear, they come in, and then when you think they're the bravest guys in the air, then the medevacs come in.
Yeah.
These guys are nuts.
Yeah.
And as I think Joe Galloway, who actually wrote the foreword to our book, Joe Galloway, We Were Soldiers. He's got this God's Own Lunatics or something. He does a piece on YouTube about it, and it is spot on. They're in there, and they're kicking ass and taking names. What had happened, what I come to find out later, is 2 regiments of NVA, the 66th Regiment, Ho Chi Minh's own, as they were called, and the 28th Regiment, Infantry Regiment out of North Vietnam, and an artillery regiment had moved in. And on their way to Bù Prang, and I'm like, oh, what's this? Well, let's knock this out real quick. The 66th Regiment is the same one that Hal Moore ran into in the Ai Drang Valley in '65. We were soldiers once.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same one. And these guys, they're not super soldiers, okay? Don't get me wrong, but they're good.
Yeah.
They're damn good. They're well disciplined, and they have what they need to fight.
Yeah.
And they're good soldiers. I highly respect them. I don't fear them, but I did then.
Yeah.
But I highly respected them. And they were there. And so we were outnumbered. Well, there was about 5,000 to 6,000 NVA surrounding us. And we had at that time maybe 150, 160 guys when we started. So we were vastly outnumbered. And if it hadn't been for the chopper pilots, the attack helicopters with their rockets and their miniguns, and then when they weren't shooting, the fast movers come in. The Air Force would bring in their F-4s, and they would just bomb the piss out of them with these big bombs and napalm. And they kept them back. They kept them from overrunning us. And if it wasn't meant for those guys, well, we wouldn't have blasted the first attack.
You have, I was going to say, your description in your book of air support. I rewinded that and listened to that about 10 times in a row. You finish it with saying it was great theater. That was the best description. I got goosebumps listening to that.
That was something.
Yeah.
So we were holding our own. So here we are. Now, I suppose maybe 140, 130 now. But we were holding our own. And they were getting us resupply, and which was ammo. And then at one point, we're out of water. And it's hot.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little things that I'm going to kind of jump over. But we were able to get it in as best we could, but it seemed like every time the ammo was coming in, we were just about out of it. Mm-hmm. But we were fighting, we were holding our own. Now, this is my absolute first time in combat. But the Army had trained me. I had been through intensive training. And although I had never been shot at, as they say, shot, fire, and anger, I'd never heard one before, I knew what to do when I did. Yeah. And that is, without a doubt, the most important thing is your training. So I relied on my training. I didn't have any experience to get me through, and it did. I knew what to do and how to do it. And one thing, the necessities of mother invention, I'm talking to Forward Air Control, and I'm trying to pinpoint where I need him to put a white phosphorus rocket, because these are bird dogs. These are Cessna airplanes. Yeah. I talked to him. He then marks it with a rocket. I vector him in, and then the fast movers come in, the jets come in and bomb on that marker. I can't talk to the jets.
Yeah.
I can only talk to him. Choppers I can talk to, okay. And I can tell them where I want them.
Okay.
So, and they're just not getting it. So, because on me, I'm not explaining exactly where I went. Oh, you see the ridge with the tube. Okay, come down to so many meters. Okay. So I got an idea. I took my Car 15, a Colt automatic rifle, the shorty version, so we called them then. Yeah. And I took a magazine and I loaded up nothing but tracers, red rounds, took all the ball ammo and put the red rounds in, went out there, and I went out to the perimeter, and I had to kind of lay out in the open behind some sandbags, and I said, now watch this. I went boom, 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 boom. And I put about 6 rounds exactly where I wanted that airstrike to be, right where that recoilless rifle was shooting from.
Yeah.
Got it. Boom, he puts a rocket in it, boom. Then they took it back to the Stone Age. I said, wow, I'm onto something here. I did it again. I found another place and I did it again. I did it the third time now, they're on to me. So every time I went out after that and I started plunking away, the wrath of God came down on me. But it worked. It worked amazingly well. So the chance of getting wounded was worth the effect that it did. So I did that quite a bit until they had us so surrounded you could just drop a bomb anywhere and hit them.
Yeah.
It didn't really matter at the pinpoint anymore. They were doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, so you got a visitor. Hi, Maggie.
Maggie.
Yeah.
Maggie, would you like to join the podcast?
That's my dog.
Yeah, for everybody listening, that's the dog. Yeah. Hi, Maggie. But yeah, that's again a kind of some more beautiful image, beautiful relatively in that word. Bombing back to the Stone Age. Yeah, LeMay, bombs away LeMay. But I thought with that same Stone Age kind of verbosity is it's kind of like 2001: A Space Odyssey, right? When he discovers how to like throw the club, and it's like bum bum. It's like you put tracers in the magazine, and it's like this is the next big step in evolution. Like, spray it, phosphorus, bomb, and it's like bum bum. It's the next big step. But as you said, it gets to a point where you don't need precision anymore because now it's just they're overrun. Not quite, but they are. Like ants on a carcass. They're all around.
Well, the chopper pilots now, I am all over because my big gun is the radio.
Yeah,
that's my gun.
Yeah,
so I can go to different points and talk on the radio, talk to the choppers, talk to the forward air control, bring in what we need. Then time to time, when we'd have a breach in the wire where they'd get through the initial part of it. Everybody hands on, grab your rifles. We don't have time for anything else but to beat them back. And they did make a couple penetrations where they almost completely got in, but we were able to get them back.
Yeah.
So we are holding our own.
Yeah.
We're holding on to this worthless piece of real estate. And I had no intention of doing anything but hold on to this.
Yeah.
And I think it was about day 3. We started getting incoming, mid-morning, if not. And it was so heavy. It was something we had never done before. It just shook the ground. And I said, my God, it's artillery. Now, we couldn't sustain artillery. Not artillery.
Yeah.
These bunks were logs and earth.
Yeah.
And artillery would just wipe them out.
Yeah.
So I called the forward air control. I said, Mike A2, this is Huck. We're getting incoming, and from the way I can feel it coming in. I see it coming in as it's coming from the west. Now, to our west is Cambodia, maybe a kilometer and a half away, not far, and which is a quote neutral country. So, yeah, exactly. Air quotes on that one.
Yeah.
He flies over there and he says, I got it. He says, it's coming from a Cambodian army base. Camp Leroy was the name of it. Mm-hmm. One time French, then Cambodian. And I said, well, knock him out. And he goes, I can't. It's a neutral country. It's across, as we used to say, across the fence.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm thinking, oh my God, what do I do now? What do I do now? We can't do this. They're gonna annihilate us. And he comes back on the air and he goes, Hockey says, I can't go across there and bomb them unless the ground commander declares a tactical emergency. I said, I declare tactical emergency, Roger. And we went in there and they bombed the piss out of it. And my name ended up on Richard Nixon's desk within an hour as creating an international incident. It was in Time magazine, a little blurb that we had bombed this neutral, peaceful Cambodian army. It ended up there twice because I did it again.
Good.
But we didn't get any more artillery.
Yeah.
We just got the rest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And our pilots would say they would be flying up there and they would see, after the jets had been through and then there was a lull, he said it looked like, when you mentioned ants, he says, hundreds and hundreds of little black dots coming up the slopes. And he says it was incredible. And then another time, about day 3 or 4, they told everybody to back off and they told us to take extreme cover. And they dropped a B-52 arc light strike with this, as the term goes, danger close.
Yeah.
It was so close, in fact, so the shrapnel
Killed
into our perimeter and
killed one of your men and injured two. I was gonna say, well, I want to.
That had to be done.
Yeah, I wanna focus on that because above all else on this episode, I wanted to get to the B-52 bombing, but I wanted to clarify in my own mind in your book. About your name ending up on Nixon's desk in Cambodia. Was that the first instance of using their airspace, or technically going the secret war in Cambodia? Was that the first instance?
Oh no.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, the mere fact that he knew that if I declared a tactical emergency, that he could do it. I'm sure he's done it before, but
Exactly.
know there's repercussions in doing it.
Sure.
You can't just do it without any provocation, and because otherwise you're going to get your ass in a lot of trouble.
Sure. Okay.
Nothing
Yeah. Okay. But I was gonna say in your book, I can't do it unless the commander says, and you're like, well, I say it is. It's just right. It's you can't go to the bathroom unless Tommy says you can. Okay. Well, Tommy says you can go to the bathroom, right? It's the B-52s. That again. That vignette in the book, I listened to that on Audible. I listened to that. I was in the gym. I listened to it again driving home, and I parked in the driveway. And I remember my mom came out. She's like, "I thought I heard you come home," and I was like holding up one. I was re-listening to that. Your description of this is how I'm trying to frame it for the listeners. Is like. Some, millennial like me, 30 years old, never seen combat, right? You watch movies your whole life, you play video games your whole life. And in video games, right, the pistol's always the weakest, right? You have all this other stuff, and at the very end, you have a pistol. The first time I went and shot a pistol with my brother, I remember thinking, that was so much louder and more powerful than I thought. Wow, everything must be scaled up. So, on that, kind of going with that train of thought, in my mind, it was always like, if it's not like a nuclear bomb, it's nothing. And then like you go down into smaller and I always viewed, like a helicopter or an F4 as the pistol. And I imagine if I actually saw them, I would be, holy shit.
Yeah, they are.
Your description of the B-52 is what kind of put all that imagery in my head. Because someone like me, I've watched a million videos of them. I've watched Linebacker, Rolling Thunder. I've watched all of these, campaigns from, the aerial footage, the gun camera footage. But again, it's always a little more abstract, right? Like Stalin, one death is a tragedy, a million is a statistic. It always was a little more abstract. And one story was about a guy in the Hanoi Hilton, and he describes a B-52 doing a sortie, and like the doors in the where he was staying, like the wooden doors, he said flapping like leaves in the wind, just like you wouldn't believe, like shockwaves making everyone nauseous. And he's like, you don't think about it because you always see it zoomed out on a evening news.
Yeah.
I say all of that to say, can you just say a few words on what that was about the bombs falling at a terminal velocity, going over 800 miles an hour, strapped in steel, hitting the ground, and then thinking, oh, that wasn't even the primary explosion, and then how are we going to survive? And yeah, like you said, I mean, it killed one and injured two, but it was, if that didn't happen, then you were all going to die from something else. So sorry for that 3-minute interruption. I had to emphasize how anyone listening to the book, if you have any interest in the Air Force, this book is worth getting just for the F4 description and the B-52 description. It gave me goosebumps. So sorry, the B-52 arc lights. That's where we are now.
Well, first of all, they sent us a coded up message into the command post that the artillery guys had set up, and it's hard for me to give enough accolades to the American artillery guys over there. They were phenomenal, especially when they went into the infantry role. Well, it said take extreme cover. They didn't tell us. I did not know that it was an arc light was coming in.
Yeah,
I did not know it. And I remember in my fighting position, my bunker, I knew that something was coming in, but I didn't know what. And I looked up and I saw these flashes flash, 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 and they weren't that far away. And I saw the ground start to move, like roll.
Yeah.
Like a wave, come waving at me. And then I heard the explosions. And I'm like, my God, what is this? Because your mind races so fast. And at first I thought it was the backblast of something they were shooting at us, but I knew right away I ruled that out. And then I put it together. It's an arc light, because it was highly classified where they were going to drop us, supposedly. It was unbelievable. It was something I'll never forget.
Well, and what was highly classified?
The arc lights, when they would leave to bring one in, they would not broadcast it. The whole thing was to catch the enemy off guard.
Yeah.
It didn't quite work that way, but that was the intent.
Yeah. And it just, because you said in your book, you're like, you had put in a request for a B-52, but you're like, I guess now because eventually, right, they gave you guys priority 1 in all of Vietnam.
We had the top priority because there was no other major fights. And here we had a couple regiments wrapped in.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I remember you describing, you're like, how are we going to survive this? The B-52s, you were like, how are we going to survive this?
Yeah. And I can't say enough about the spooky guys at night. One of the guys, things were tense. And one of the guys in the sky, Captain Al Dykes, he's in the book. He's on the DVD, Escape from Firebase, Kate, the documentary. He had this. He says, "Hey, Hawk, this is Al Dykes, the Alabama boy, and Spooky 401." I'll never forget. He had the calmest, most reassuring voice when things were really tense at night, and I would factor him in all around there and then pass it off, and I'd try to get some sleep. Al Dykes recorded everything. And as Spooky did, and when it was all over, he sent me a cassette of 90 minutes of him over Kate, to include when the night we went the breakout through enemy lines. He recorded all that, and I've got it, and it's online. It's on the it's online. On my website and a few other things. It's some good stuff.
I will absolutely link. I'm going to listen to that after. That's
pretty neat.
Yeah, that's insane. I was going to say, I feel like there's got to be some psychological benefits to him coming across as very calm, cool, collected, right?
Absolutely, because things were tense.
Yeah.
And he sent it to me. I didn't listen to it in Vietnam because I knew it was on it, and I ended up going to another combat unit, but I had it. Well, I still have to this day, even though it's been transcribed into a CD.
Yeah.
But I did listen to it when I came home. Okay, now I'll tell the average person I took a 6-pack, but it was more like a 12-pack. And I went to the backyard in August in 1970, sat in a lawn chair, had a cigar, drank some beer, and listened to it from beginning to end. And I never listened to it again until we started to write the book.
Yeah, I can't. Do you think it? Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, things started going downhill real quick.
Sure.
The NVA had brought in anti-aircraft unit, 37 millimeter, and it may be the first time ever it was brought into Vietnam. They put it on a hilltop, and it was on the 31st of October, Halloween. Joker 85 was coming in hot. He was coming in hard, and he was shooting them up, and they hit him. And Joker at 85, I think it hit his tail boom, and it started to catch fire. And Joker 83, I think, was behind him. Is going. Now I'm listening to all this because, literally, he's flying so close into Kate and then Jungle and then another hill over here. He's flying between them, shooting at the bad guys as they're coming out of the wood line. And I'm there calling him in, and I can hear him calling there. He says, "You're on fire. You got to set down. You got to set down." He goes, Where's the space?" And then ran to the ground, blew up, and all killed.
Yeah.
Nolan Black and his entire crew of Joker 85 was killed. And I mean, I was close enough where I could. We all were, from our position where we could feel the heat sweep over you from the explosion. It was something. So they made a decision not to have any more close-in attack helicopter air support, and rightly so, because it became suicidal. Yeah. They would still get us air support, helicopter support for medevacs, and I was judicious in calling them in, and for resupply. And for resupply, they would try to, like it's one of the guys, John Beckenheimer. He was, I got to know these guys writing the book. He was flying a Chinook, which is the twin rotored big supply. He was bringing us in some much needed supplies. And he came in, and as you're coming in, they get enough momentum, and they can unleash it, and the momentum will take it in, and it'll tumble into your perimeter. And it had worked. This time, he was coming in, and they're starting to take 51 calibers through that aluminum sheeting. And he thought he had the airspeed. He thought he was close enough, and he kicked it loose, and it hit the edge of our perimeter and rolled back down into the NVA. And it probably, as he said, first time probably on record in Vietnam of an American unit resupplying an NVA unit.
First time for everything, right?
Yeah.
And they lit it up. They lit it up, right?
He felt really bad about it. Yeah, they used some of it on to some of the flares. He felt really bad about it, but I mean, that's war. It's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
So now, and I've fast forward through.
You don't need to fast forward, man. Take your time.
No, I do. I do need to fast forward through.
Okay.
We're now, it's November 1st.
Okay.
I'm pleading. I said, if you want me to hold this ground, I need more people. And the word went out. Now, the whole reason that we were in Vietnam was to engage the enemy.
Yeah.
Kick their ass or send them packing. And here I got a lot. I got more than I can handle, certainly. So let's go. Well, the word went out. It went up through the American units. Now, the 4th Infantry Division, a fine infantry division, to play coup. 4th Infantry, there's 10,000 men. 10,000. They're about 100 clicks away. To our west, to our east, maybe 50 clicks away, Bambi Tuot, was the 23rd ARVN, Army of the Republic of South Vietnam. And there's another 10,000 infantry. So we said, we need help. Well, the word went up through the American channels. Hey, they got a hell of a fight on their hands. Let's get them in. Nixon was at that moment in time, well, for our last few months, doing Vietnamization. We were turning the war with the Vietnamese. So they barred the Americans from coming in to our rescue. And it would be a rescue now. And they passed it to the Vietnamese. And they said, well, we can't come, but you need to go there. And I told you already how the Vietnamese thought about the mount yards. And they said, we're not going to do that. We need to send Bambi Tuot and protect Bambi Tuot, because when they're done there, there's a real good chance they're going to come to Bambi Tuot. We got to be ready. And they said, you don't understand. You have to, because if you don't, they're going to annihilate them. They said, see, here's the deal. We don't have to, and we're not going to. So neither side would blink, and neither side was coming. All I knew, I didn't know the politics of all, is that we weren't getting any help.
Yeah.
But Special Forces said, screw this. And they said, let's bring in the Mobile Strike Force, the Mike Force. Remember I told you about
the professionals. Yep, the experienced guys.
The most professional, the best.
Yeah.
And all of their strikers, all of their mountain yards are combat hardened, and they're all paratroopers, and they're all highly paid. Some would say mercenaries. They're just damn good, and they're paid well for it.
It's reimbursed professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They brought them in. I mean, take nothing away from the Camp Strikers, but the Mike Ford Strikers were, well, it'd be like a regular infantry versus a ranger. I mean, these guys were hardcore. Each suites are good. They're better.
Yeah.
So they started bringing them in. They were going to bring in a reinforced battalion, maybe 600. Again, nobody knew there were thousands out there. They just knew I was in a hell of a fight.
Yeah.
And I could see them through the rolling hills. I could see them off to the west, landing in these. There were natural landing zones out there. They put in about a company, a little bit more. Well, I not only saw them, but the NVA saw them too, and they shifted probably maybe 1,000 of their guys to take them on. So they maybe got 160, 180 guys out of 600 on the ground, and the NVA hit them. Now here they're out, they're in the open field. They're in an LZ. They're not dug in. So they're fighting behind logs and mounds, and we're dug in. And the NVA are putting everything in. You cannot land helicopters. You cannot continue on combat insertion with troops in a firefight.
Yeah.
That's just impossible. They shoot the birds out of the sky.
Yeah.
So what was there. And they fought like banshees, but they had to give. And they dropped back. And I'm listening to this on the radio, and I've got my binoculars, and I can even see with the naked eye some of what's going on. I can see the birds coming in. And they fought, and they dropped back, and they reformed the skirmish line, if you will, and fought some more. NVA pushed, they dropped back again, reformed again. The NVA pushed, they dropped back, and this time kept on going. That was supposed to be our relief. They were supposed to come into Firebase K. That was not going to happen now, nor were there going to be any more Mike Force inserted. That's when I realized we're on our own.
Yeah.
Where there is no help to be had.
Yeah.
I went back to the command post that we had dug in, and about that time, the Mountain Yard leadership, the three of them, said basically, to quote Eric Burden and the Animals, we got to get out of this place. I said, we are.
Yeah.
We are. We're desperately low on ammo, desperately low on water. I get so many walking wounded, I can't even count them all. I said, yeah, we are. Yeah. But not now. So I had a meeting with all the leadership. At a meeting with the American leadership and the Mountaineer leadership, I said, all right, gentlemen, this is our options. We can stay here, die in place, but to what end?
Yeah.
So we're at the Alamo buying time for Sam Houston.
You're not at Norman.
We surrender, and that will never happen.
Yeah.
Or we can attempt a breakout, and that is what we're going to do. Now, you notice I didn't say, all right, well, let's see a show of hands here, and who wants to do this, and how many want. No, because as a commander, you seek counsel with the people that in the know are your subordinates. You seek counsel, but the ultimate decision is your decision. This was my decision.
Yeah.
And this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And they all said, and this is what we're going to do. So I immediately had them code up a message. When I'm talking to Special Forces, I could put things in code. But when I'm talking to everybody else out there, I couldn't put it in code. I had to talk in the clear. Mm-hmm. I said, request permission, abandon Firebase K. Now, they knew what was going on because they've been following everything. Mm-hmm. They knew that the Mike Force wasn't coming in. They knew the Mike Force couldn't get there. They knew I was low on ammo. They knew I was low on water. So this should be a no-brainer. Request permission, abandon Firebase K. In the meantime, I said, okay, let's destroy all our codes, all our notes, all our logs, all the radios that we're not going to take out with us. We're going to spike the tubes, the artillery tube. Now, we got to do this very surreptitiously because we're literally surrounded. They can watch us. Didn't take them real long to get back to me. Permission denied.
Yeah.
And I went, give me that pad. We are
leaving
Firebase K. Send that. I didn't care.
Yeah.
The decision had to be made.
Yeah.
We kept about it, and about 15 minutes later, I got a response. Permission granted. What we're going to do is we're going to have the Mike Force move up and link up with you. Have an element. You're going to go to them. They're going to lead you back to their main body that they have. And we're going to have Spooky on station. They're going to shoot in front of you. They're going to spray as you go off, and you got to go off the north side.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe we got a chance here.
Yeah.
Roger to all that. Well, then they started in on the clear, and then the Air Force is talking to me and everything. Hey, make sure you go when you get to Ambush Hill. You have to go to the left side, because the Mike Force unit is going to be down there to hook up. So a lot of this stuff was coming in the clear. It shouldn't have been, but it was because of this radio situation. We're ready. Night starts to fall. Got real dark, real dark. As soon as it got stone dark, I gathered everybody to the north end. Now we're down to about 130 guys, I think, somewhere in there. Everybody was on the side, the north slope, ready to go. We're still inside our perimeter, we're still inside our wire. And we waited. We waited for Spooky to come on station, to shoot in front of us so we can proceed. It seemed like an eternity. Spooky calls up. Hawk, this is Spooky, whatever. Roger, got some engine trouble. Gotta go back, gotta get another. Don't worry. Another one's coming. Roger. I passed the word. In just hushed whispers. 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, Hawk, this is Spooky, another number. Go ahead. Yeah, we got some problems too. We're going to have to go back, but don't worry, there's another one coming. Well, I'm thinking Hawk is worried, okay? I am really starting to get worried now, because I was not afraid at any point until then.
Yeah.
Because I was so busy. I was so busy doing so many things, fear just didn't really register.
Didn't have
and when
time.
I wasn't doing something, I collapsed in exhaustion and slept for several hours, 2-3 hours, boom, and I'd be right back at it. So, but now I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
And now I'm starting to get scared.
Yeah.
Everybody was scared. Everybody. And I'm talking on the radio to find out where the hell that Spooky is this time. We got to get out of here. And I got the push to talk to press. Spooky, this is Hawk. Spooky, this is Hawk. Over. Nothing. Jesus, they're not even answering now. And I did this a couple more times. And I look at Tex, who was my RTO guy, and exactly. I said, this damn radio isn't working. He goes, sir? Kind of a smile, drawl, Texas drawl. Kind of released to talk the switch. You got it depressed. And as I had it depressed, I was transmitting, but you couldn't receive. So I did. And right away, they come back, hey, Hawk, this is that. And I went, oh, God.
Yeah.
Roger, how far out? Okay. And I that's when it hit me. I said, if I don't get control of myself here, I will get us all killed.
Yeah.
I have got to get control. And I've got to face the fact that I'm going to die tonight.
Yeah.
And I know where. I'm going to die right there in that gap. And so I looked up at the cosmos, at the galaxies, at the stars, and I said, dear Lord, I know I'm going to die tonight. There's no way I can't. And, that's okay. That's okay. But please just let me get as many of these fine young men out as I can. That's all I ask. And then I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. And, you think about the people who are going to miss you and everything.
Yeah.
But no, that's kind of the way it goes.
Yeah.
And once I did that,
You were at peace.
I was at peace. I was no longer afraid. I had no more fear in me.
Yeah.
And it was just like somebody threw a switch.
Washed it all off.
Focused. I ran back. I said, everybody stay here. I'm going to run back, make sure we didn't leave anybody. So I ran back to the other end of the gate, the south end. We didn't leave anybody, but I could hear the NVA coming up the slope now. You could hear them coming, clipping the wires, and moving very slowly because they thought we were still there.
Yeah.
So I ran back to the other end. In the meantime, they started dropping mortars on us. Flares. When they went out, I said, let's go. And so we started to go single file. Now you had to go single, and now you have to go single file.
Yeah.
You just can't do formations in the pitch black.
Yeah.
Single file, we start going through our own wire first. And don't you know, somebody hits a triple layer. And we all hit the ground. They burned for maybe 30 seconds or so. It seemed like an hour. We were silhouetted out there, everybody laying motionless like we were dead. And I'm waiting for the incoming, nothing. As soon as it went out, we started down the north slope, and we got about 30 meters from the gap. My mountain point man stopped. I'm kind of maybe 20 back. Danny Pirelli's in the rear. He's got the rear guard. And I worked my way. I said, what's going on here? And the interpreter says, he won't go. This man was frozen. He was a brave soldier, but he was frozen, paralyzed with fear. And I looked at the gap, and I looked at him, and I took my car 15 I had slung, worked it in there, full automatic, finger on the trigger, left hand on the radio, follow me. And I stepped off. And I got through the gap. I got in the gap, and nobody shot at us. I'm like, my God, this is a miracle.
Yeah.
This is exactly where I would be.
Yeah.
They're coming up the south end, so anybody's escaping, they're going to go off the north end, but they're not there. And I had drilled it. Now I got this point guy, and I'm just shoving him through, shoving people through. Let's go. I told him, and we we told him, you go left, because when Spooky gets on station, which he is not, he's going to fire, and he knows that we're going to go left to the ambush. He went right. I could see him. We had some moonlight now. I could see him go to the right. I went, work it out later.
Yeah.
Well, the left was an L-shaped ambush. The NVA had set up on the left because they knew we were going left, and that's why they let us through the gap. They were going to get us there on the left side of Ambush Hill. They had a 51 caliber on top of Ambush Hill pointed down, fueled the fire right into us, and if we would have gone left, we would not be doing this podcast. But we went right. Did the Mountain Yard have some intuitiveness or some divine intervention or what? Yeah, the hand of God. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But nothing other than the hand of God.
Yeah.
So by the time I got everybody moving, I ran up and I caught up to the point, and we started coming very, very close to the top of Ambush Hill, kind of on a military crest of it, and came down because we were supposed to meet the Mike Force unit deeper into the jungle, like about maybe 6 or 7 guys to lead us back. That's when they told us that the Mike Force ain't there. So Spooky's not going to be shooting for you. The Mike Force isn't going to be linking up with you and lead you back to their main body. You are once again on your own. Okay. We started penetrating into the jungle, single file. Again, single file, jungle, night. At that moment, I still thought the Mike Force was there. I didn't find out about them until a few minutes later. So I was calling them. I said, we're coming in now. We're going to come into your perimeter. We're going to link up with you. We'll be in single file. And, you were going into it. And just then, the top of Ambush Hill started shooting. And it was that 51 caliber. They had turned it around and were shooting down on us. And all it registers with me is tracers are going over my head. About a foot over my head, and they're green. Now, I should have put that together. Green, enemies are green, ours are red. But I'm screaming on the radio, cease fire. I thought Spooky was shooting on us. And they said, we're not shooting. I said, somebody is. And that's when they went, oh my God, they're green and they're big. And what had happened is when this 51 caliber is a tripod, and when you're shooting down, you can only get to go so far down because that's the angle of the steep hill we're on. So they couldn't get it low enough, so they're shooting over our heads. And a guy. What else?
Yeah.
We literally crashed into the jungle. And they're shouting, and guys are yelling, and I'm trying to get everybody organized and trying to forget about counting heads. It's pitch dark. But I said to the Americans, and the Mountain Yards were good, I figured if anybody can do this on their own, they can. Let's all get together. Yards, I told her, make sure you got all your people. The Americans, yes, we have everybody. Let's go. So we started going single file through the jungle. I have to lead. I have to leave. I have a map. I have a flashlight with a red filter, and I have a compass. And I know approximately where the Mike Force is. They wouldn't give me their exact location because they don't want to give it on the air. And rightly so. So we start heading out there, and I want to put as much distance as possible between the NBA that are pursuing us. And we start moving. And single file on our own. We left about 8:30 at night, and after the breakout in the firefight, that was about 2:30. We went very, very slow, dodging the NVA. They were out, they were everywhere, and they came so close to us one time, they were maybe 6 meters from us as they went by in the dark, and we were all hunkered down, and we let them pass. We're all hunkered down and ready, hoping to God they didn't see us or hear us. And they did. They just kept going by for a very long time. And then we're up and we're moving again. And after now it's about 2:30 in the morning, from what I could piece together in our conversations, not with the Mike Force, but prior to leaving, where they had kind of intimated where they were buried, we came to this clearing, this meadow, maybe 160 to 80 feet long, maybe 100. And there was a big jungle wood line on the other side of it. It was level. And I said to I had 2 artillery lieutenants and my mountain yard, and Danny Pirelli. Danny was right there with me. I had my red filter flashlight. I had it down. I said, I think they may be right over there in that wood line. And just about that time, I heard the distinct clank of like somebody dropping a rifle. It's a distinct metallic clank. And I heard that. So I called him. I said, Mike Force, this is Hawk. I think I described where I was. And I said, could you have somebody come out to this meadow and so we could identify him and lead us back? And he said, you have somebody come out. I said, yeah, okay. Well, once again, I've never asked anybody to do anything I hadn't done or wouldn't do. So I told Danny, I said, now, I'm going to go out there, and I think I'm okay. But if it's not, it's the enemy. Because somebody's over there.
About to find out.
You do this. If they take me, forget about me. Get these guys out of here. Go due north. Go due north as quickly as you can. And when it comes sun up, there's going to be choppers out looking for everybody. But keep going due north towards Buprang. Copy. So I went out there and I walked into this clearing. And again, about knee-high grass. And I had my rifle and my pistol belt. And I said, I'm an American. I said, I'm an American. Are you the Mike Force? I didn't yell it. I didn't whisper it. I did it about that tone. No answer. And I kept walking across this field, this meadow. I'm an American. Are you the Mike Force? Nothing. I said it a couple, 2, 3 more times. And I just kept getting closer and closer and closer to the wood line. And when I actually stepped into the wood line, I looked down and there's a mountaineer sitting up there smiling at me. He's in tiger fatigues. He's got an M16. I know it's Americans. And I was like, and just then Sergeant Simmons and Sergeant Stevens were the 2 Mike Force sergeants come in and said, Hawk, where's your people? I said, across the meadow. He said, go get them back here right now. We got to get out of here. We got to get out of here now. Roger that. Boom, I run across the meadow. I get them and I bring them all back. We hook up. The Mike Force puts a unit, some of their people in front, some of our people in their back, and then we took the middle part and we set off. And we left there probably, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. We got back to Buprang, 11:30 on November 2nd. We lost 1 man.
That has to. That's the hand of God.
It is.
That
truly.
There's at a certain point, the rational mind, you must look at it and go, okay, well now this, it's, yeah. What else is there?
I can't. I've run over it hundreds of times in my mind. And the yard going right, the mountain yard, we call them yards, is a term of endearment.
Yeah.
He went right. And he was told left 100 times, many times. But he went right. Okay. If I'd have been in the lead, I would have went left. But I was too busy. And so thank God for him to start with. And then that when he opened up on that 51 caliber, I mean, my God, they're huge rounds. And he couldn't get a load off. He's shooting over our heads. Now, we returned fire, obviously. We're now in a firefight with him. But still in all, we were able to get into the deep, dark jungle and break contact. Oh, it was just so many things. So, got back. Now, later on, when I got back, of course, then it was a pretty big deal. So they had several other things happened after that. But one in particular, the group commander of the Special Forces was a full colonel. That's all it was, of all the Special Forces. Iron Mike Healy. He was a no-nonsense, hardcore son of a bitch. And he flew out to Camp Ubu Prang a couple of days later to personally congratulate me. Now, a couple terms here. OIC, officer in charge, OIC. We got to know that. And he flew out of Nha Trang. Nha Trang, Vietnam, was a pretty good city in the Special Forces compound. Pretty nice.
Yeah.
Pretty nice.
Yeah.
And they actually had an ice cream store there. Yeah. They really did.
Yeah.
Where you could get in, which blew my mind when I got to Vietnam. So he flew in, and he's on the tarmac there. The whole team is out there, my team, and he's there, and he goes, outstanding, best traditions of the Special Forces, on and on. So thank you, sir. My honor, sir. He says, you name it. What do you want to do? You want to come back and be my personal aide? Done. He says, you want a desk job back here, do this? You tell me where you want to go, and I'll get you there. You name it. You've earned it. I said, sir, I'd like to be the OIC of the Dairy Queen there in the tray. And to this day, I find it hilarious. He did not.
Your description in the book, that is what made me laugh the most. When you're like a little goblin on his way to do mischief, saw me, jumped in my mouth, went down my throat, took over my body, and said, "I would like to be the OIC at the ice cream shop." And then he hopped out of me, and I stared in awe as this spawn of Satan used my body to say that description. Because we've all done that, right?
That's Marvin. Marvin's got the gift, man.
Yeah.
I told him about it. He goes, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. That description was just outside of the entire insane story. That description was hilarious. Just this little spawn of Satan jumped in me and took over my body.
He goes, that decision's just taken. What else? And I said, no, I'd like to go to the 2 Corps Mike Force. Done. Did it about face, got in the helicopter, flew out, never saw him again.
That's what
I say. Yeah. I got what I wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where the
went to Mike Force, and that was.
And you are. I think we should save it for another episode because I want to have you on a second time. You have an extensive history with the Secret Service, correct?
Yes.
That would make an awesome second episode if you are willing and able to talk about it. I understand.
Yeah, we'll talk about. Talking about
okay.
There's I've done interviews about Secret Service, and I got no story, no.
Yeah.
This happened, but there was a lot of funny shit happened too, though.
Dude, that's what this. You don't have to. People always tell me, they're like, "Man, I don't know if I'm interesting enough for your podcast." I'm like, "Dude, just come on and shoot the shit. I don't care." It's yeah. And well, thank you for telling your story, sir.
I want to, and this is.
Oh yeah, sure.
The veterans out there. So I continued my tour, and I ended up going in the rear my last 2 months. I got wounded the third time. They put me back there. Is what they did. Unless you're John Kerry, then they send you home. That's the story. So I come home in 1970, and it was a tough time to be a veteran, especially Vietnam.
Yeah.
Real tough time. I'm not whining. I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, it was a tough time.
Yeah. Baby killer. Yeah. Hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today? Yeah. No, it's a bunch of ungrateful communists, and they're around right now.
It was tough.
Yeah.
So us veterans, we kind of hunkered down. We kind of got together. But what I did, and I think this is probably true from the Revolutionary War, Civil War, World War I, II, Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan. I took all those memories, the horrific memories, and some of the stuff that I just never wanted to relive and pretty much think about, and I bundled them all up and I put them in a closet. Some people say a foot locker, some people say a wall locker, and I nailed it shut and padlocked it, and I just wanted to keep those memories out of my way because I'm behind. I'm 4 years behind, and I'm going to college now, so I got to get a degree. I'd like to start a family, get a career, boom, boom, boom. So I don't have time to dwell in the past. Okay, and you do, and then I don't know. I think the first time I was with the Secret Service in New York, in the New York field office, and I'm driving home in the commute, and the closet came open. And a few memories came out, a couple memories, one or two. And I didn't have a flashback, and I didn't, oh my God, what am I going to do? No, I remembered them, and I remembered them vividly, and I processed them. I remember, yeah, that's how it happened. I do remember that. I did remember him. I remember this. And I processed it. And when I was done, I took that memory and I put it back in the closet and closed the door. But see, now that it had been opened, the door doesn't go closed all the way.
Yeah.
It'll go closed almost all the way.
Yeah.
But you just can't get it back all the way closed.
Yeah.
So then after that, it could be a smell.
Yeah.
It could be something you saw. It could be a turn of phrase.
Yeah.
And the door comes open.
Yeah.
And you don't know when. It just comes open and things come out. And you deal with them. You process them. You go, okay, boom. And you put them back. Well, in 2008, the door came open. Now I'm no longer working full time. I'm older. And the door came open and everything came out. And I sat down and I started to write. And I didn't intend to write a book. All I did is want to put the story of Firebase Kate on paper for my family. It made a lot of news in the day. It made a lot of headlines. People asked me that. So I did. I put it on paper with no intention of writing a book. It morphed into a book and then into a documentary. And there's even talk about making it a film. I'm not holding my breath on that one. But a lot of veterans go through the exact same thing. And when it came to writing the book, which followed after, it was a cathartic experience, just like this. So you mind talking about it? Not now, I don't. Well, one of the things when the book came out, I mean, we sold over 20,000 copies. A lot of my guys I was with in the Secret Service, I'm retired, of course, they read it. I see them at conferences, reunions. They go, what the hell? How come we didn't know any of this? I said, it never came up.
Put it in the closet.
Never talked about it. There was no need to talk about it.
Yeah.
And now it's out there. And because I did that, I'm very much at peace with everything. And I'm able to sit down and talk about it. I do lecturing and talk about leadership and problem solving, this type of things. But that's our generation of veterans. And two quick war stories. Sure. And you know what the difference between a war story and a fairy tale?
What?
Fairy tale starts out once upon a time. A war story starts out, this ain't no shit. Well, this ain't no shit. I'm at 1996 when I'm at a Special Forces reunion in Fort Bragg. And at that reunion, I hooked up with Sergeant Stevens, Lowell Stevens, and Sergeant Simmons, the two guys from the Mine Force that I hadn't seen since November 1st, 2nd of 1969. I got a picture of him. It's in the book. Of the first time we met, and we had some cocktails. Yes, we did. Later on at the more formal event, I'm in there, and there is. We're all dressed in suits and black ties and everything. And there's Bo Greitz. Now, Bo Greitz is a legend in Special Forces. He was a colonel, got out as a colonel. He was a tremendous soldier. And he's one back in, was it 70s? Maybe when he was getting funding, clandestine funding, he was going to mount a rescue into Vietnam for the MIAs and POWs, which I do believe some were left behind, but there are none now. But I digress on that. And he's quite a guy. He's, like I said, he's a legendary figure. Well, I met him in Vietnam at the Officers Club in the Trang. And he was, I don't know what rank he was in, maybe a major or something. Because I remember introduced myself. So I saw him, I walked over there, I said, Colonel Roach, and he goes, yeah. And I said, my name is Bill Albracht. I met you in 1970, I think it was 1970, at the Nha Trang Officer Club in Vietnam, boom, boom, boom. And I just wanted to say hi again, sir. And he goes, so you were with Special Forces in Vietnam? I said, yeah, sure was. He put his hand out, shook my hand, and he said, welcome home. 1996, that was the first time I had ever heard it. It's the first time anybody ever said to me, welcome home. Now, it's a standard thing with Vietnam veterans now, we say it to each other, but I had never heard it, I'd never seen it, and I made a point from that day forward to use it every time I saw another Vietnam veteran. That just gives you some insight in how we were treated. Again, not complaining, not whining. It's just the way I was.
Yeah.
And another buddy of mine, John Catherman. John had a distinguished career in the teaching field in this area. John was infantry, combat infantryman's badge. That's the musket with the wreath around it. This is the most coveted award that any infantryman could ever have, because you've been in the shit. You've earned this. And it's very strict on what you have to do to earn it. Not heroics, but doing your job in combat. Granted, some people wear it that shouldn't, but the vast majority earned it. Well, John was a combat veteran, and he is 1970. He just got back from Vietnam. It's February, and he is, a couple weeks earlier, he was in the jungle. And now he's sitting at this gin mill in Moline, Illinois, called Hafner's. He's waiting for his bride to get off work and meet him there. It's a Friday night. It's busy. He's having a beer at the bar, and this guy looks over and says, "Hey, man, nice tan." He says, "Where'd you get that?" He says, "Bill," he says, I sit there, I looked at my beer, and I thought about it, and I looked at him, and I said, "Just got back from Florida." And he goes, "Oh, okay." He says, "That was it." He said, "Not because I was ashamed of my service, not because I didn't want to." He says, "It's because I didn't want to engage. Yeah. I didn't want to have to explain anything. I didn't have to justify. I didn't want to have to tell him all this. If there'd been another veteran," he says, "Sure, that's vet to vet, but I just didn't want to get into it." And that's the way we were. Yeah. Who are you? Where have you been? Okay, you've never served. Okay, that's okay. I'll be over here. Okay, see you later.
Yeah.
Those two stories kind of typify a lot of who we were then.
Yeah, right. It's like, how'd you break your arm? You know, do you tell them that it was in the line of duty, or you're like, I fell off a skateboard? Right. It's just end it before it starts.
Yeah. Now we're about to end this here, and I just want to leave you with a quote. Sure. A poem. Her last name is Wilson, and she died, I don't know, 1920s, I think, or 30s. She wrote a poem called Courage. But courage is something, they say that person was very courageous, or the men on Cape were very courageous, or what you did, Bill, was very courageous. And, okay, fine. Until I heard this definition, then I said, yes, courageous is the word. Because in her poem, the quote is, "Courage is fear that has said its prayers."
I love that.
And when we're done, and with that, I will close out. It's been an honor, and we'll have to do this again someday.
Well, thank you, sir, Captain William Hawk Albracht. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say, because I'm younger than you, I don't have service, but welcome home, damn it. Screw all those communists. Screw them then. Screw them then, and screw the ones in my generation now. And I'll save that rant for another time. But good Lord in heaven, all those communist millennial Marxists out there, go fuck yourself. Thank you, sir, for making this country what it is. And thank you to men like you who serve to allow boys like me to have a life where I have a podcast instead of being drafted to go fight 8,000 miles away. So welcome home, sir. And if you're a communist, I don't respect you. You're a piece of shit. Not to end on that note, but thank you, sir.
It's my honor to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll send you an email or a text, and we'll work one out for a second time. Buy the book, everybody. Abandoned in Hell. Stick it in the top comment. It'll be in the description, as well as I'll go to your website and I'll get the audio cassette tape from the air support. And
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your story. Thank you for putting up with my unconventional interview techniques. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And yeah, we'll wrap this one up. I'll text you. I'll email you. God bless. God bless America. Stay safe, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving, and love each other. Captain Albracht. Thank you so much, sir.